Good afternoon. We are talking about the winter storm here on the East Coast. This is a new segment that we're starting called Keeping You Covered. At Magnum Opus Financial, our goal is to bring you really good need-to-know information on a wide variety of topics. This topic that we're talking on the show, Keeping You Covered, is about insurance. It's certainly not as exciting as some of the other stuff that we do at Magnum Opus Financial, but all the same, it is still important. We're checking outside to take a look at the snow falling, and snow falling makes me think of one thing when it comes to insurance, and that's freezing pipes. Did you know that your pipes freezing is not covered by your insurance? What does that mean? Well, it means that if a pipe freezes and it's your fault, then your insurance isn't going to cover that. Your homeowner's insurance. So what do you do to make sure that your homeowner's insurance continues to cover you? You need to make sure that you've done everything reasonably possible to keep your home at an appropriate temperature. So for instance, a lot of people travel for the holidays. You may be tempted to completely shut off your heating system while you're out of town to save money. But this is where you're going to get caught. If you go out of town and you turn everything off and it freezes and you have a pipe break, then you have a big problem, because that's something that you could have prevented that you didn't, and now you're asking the insurance to pick up the tab on it, and most likely they will say no. So it's really important to make sure that as you pay for this insurance coverage on your house year after year after year, that you make sure that you keep the benefit of owning it. So that means that you need to make sure, keep your temperature at, say, in the 50s or the low 60s inside of your house. That way your house stays above freezing and you don't have the issue of having a pipe burst. Make sure your house is properly insulated. I know that Cash for Caulkers, the president, was on the news the other day talking from a Home Depot location about how sexy insulation is. We certainly think it is. There is massive amounts of insulation that we have put over here at the office at Magnum Opus Financial. When we bought the location, I guess it was last year, over a year ago, last May in 2008, there was very little insulation because the property that we bought was built in 1924, and the owners that had it before did a very poor job insulating it. So that was one of the things that we did to make sure that we avoid that issue, is to have insulation in place that will keep the temperature constant, and then make sure that when you leave for the holidays that you leave the heat on. Now, if something happens and your pipe bursts and the heat is on, there's absolutely nothing that they can say. Sudden burst, as far as water claims, are always covered, as long as it's not a maintenance issue. So for instance, if you have a pipe that's leaking and it's dripping over and over and over again, and you don't do anything, and then suddenly it bursts after years of erosion, well, then that's on you again. So to recap, if there's something that you can do to prevent a loss and you don't, a lot of times that means that you're not covered. So make sure to leave the heat on while you're gone for vacation to make sure that you keep yourself covered. See, that's why we named the segment this. This segment is going to be about things that you can do as an owner of an automobile or a home to make sure that your insurance coverage continues to cover you. What insurance is there for is really unexpected events, things that come out of the blue, out of nowhere. So if you leave in the winter and you turn off your heating, well, that's something that you could have seen coming. Well, of course things are going to freeze if it's cold outside and there's no heat going over them. So make sure that you leave the heat on at your house, so that way you're covered by your homeowner's insurance. Also, make sure that if you have leaks, get them fixed. You know, whatever the cost is now, it's going to be a whole lot worse if you let that thing get worse. So what they'll do is, if you have a leak that's a maintenance issue and you don't fix it, when the sudden burst of water occurs, the damage from that will be taken care of. But all of that long, extensive damage that you have done to your house as a leak has gone without being fixed for however long, that's not going to be fixed. It's going to get really dicey and probably really pricey for you to fix your loss. So you want to make sure that you fix any water leaks that you have, and make sure to leave the heat on at your house so that you don't have a pipe freeze and then burst while you're gone, because you do not want to come home to that New Year's present. It will not be a Merry Christmas for you. All right, so hope that's helpful. If you have questions about insurance, what's covered, what's not covered, if you want to get specific, you probably need to talk to us directly. If you have a more general question about insurance and some of the things that go on, feel free to log on to magnumopusfinancial.com, and you want to click on the section for contact us, and then there's a place there to type in a message, and that'll come directly to me at Magnum Opus Financial. You can also use that for any other questions that you have for magnumopusfinancial.com. I know that we have a tremendous amount of subjects and content that we try to cover. Just use that same section, and we'll make sure that the what's going on gets to the right person. So again, we're talking about getting and staying covered on your homeowner's insurance. We thank you for tuning in, and we're talking about